Coming up on Arirang News. The deadly earthquakes in Turkey and Syria last week have claimed more than 36,000 lives and injured tens of thousands. This amid the freezing weather and warnings that the cholera outbreak in Syria could worsen due to the earthquake. Rescue and recovery efforts from around the world continue a week on from the devastating earthquakes. South Korea is also extending its help for the brother country, Turkey, from in and out of the country. South Korea's first lunar orbiter, Danuri, sends home photos taken just 100 kilometers above the surface of the moon. The probe unveils the moon's biggest dark spot, the so-called the Ocean of Storms. Hello, it's 9 p.m. here in Korea. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. Over in Turkey and Syria, the death toll continues to rise as rescuers search for survivors. The global community is sending aid to help the victims, but officials say more access points are needed in war-torn Syria. Yoon leads our coverage tonight.
A 10-year-old girl is finally pulled out from the rubble in Turkey's southern Hatay province after being trapped for 147 hours.
Bak. Bak güzel kızım, seni almaya geldik. Şu ayaklarını bir göreyim. Bakayım. Tamam, bir şey yok. Yanındayım. Bak, yanındayım.
Rescuers continue to work around the clock after two earthquakes rocked Turkey and Syria last week. The number of deaths has now reached at least 36,000. The Turkish Emergency Coordination Center said the death toll in Turkey is at over 31,000, while the Syrian government has confirmed around 4,500 deaths. But the United Nations has warned that the final number may double that.
Good or bad, everything we had was here. Even my children are crying now. They are saying, "Mom, everything is gone. Our childhood is gone. Our memories are all gone."
It's freezing and we freeze to death here. If we sit inside the tent, we'll freeze.
The international community is reaching out to help. The chief of the EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has promised to bolster aid for Turkey by responding to its latest request for more shelter capacity. And a convoy of 10 United Nations aid trucks entered northwest Syria to deliver urgent supplies to quake-hit areas. U.S. Ambassador to the UN Linda Thomas-Greenfield on Sunday urged the UN Security Council to approve 2 additional access points to deliver aid to parts of Syria quicker, as it has been complicated to reach the region due to the long-running civil war. Meanwhile, the aftermath of the earthquakes is expected to worsen the cholera outbreak in Syria. The Syrian government first declared the outbreak last September, which was reportedly due to the country's war-ravaged water infrastructure. This means there was a perfect storm brewing before the earthquakes of increasing food insecurity, collapsing healthcare systems, the lack of access to safe water, and poor sanitation. The UN has estimated that 5.3 million people have been left homeless by the disaster in war-torn Syria. Lee-hyun, Arirang News.
Among the international community, South Korea is ramping up its rescue efforts to get things back up and running as soon as possible in those quake-stricken areas. The desperate search for survivors continues amid the freezing weather. Our foreign affairs correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
President Yoon has vowed to take the lead in helping Turkey, which he said is a close ally and brother country, overcome the sorrow of the past week's destruction and loss of life. The presidential office on Monday announced that the government has secured 150 tents and 2,200 blankets to use in the cold weather and will be sending them to Turkey this Thursday on board a military aircraft. Also on the flight will be a second group of South Korean rescue workers. The government has recruited 370 medical personnel, with 29 of them to depart this week.
Around 23 million people are expected to have suffered from this incident, so we have to urgently secure tents to temporarily shelter people in the cold weather. There is also a serious shortage of medical supplies and equipment.
Meanwhile, in Turkey, South Korea's rescue efforts continue. Seoul's foreign ministry said Sunday that the South Korean team rescued a 17-year-old boy and his 51-year-old mother on Saturday evening local time. It said the boy was unconscious and that the South Koreans gave him immediate medical attention before sending him to the hospital. The woman was in good health and was sent to the hospital as well. A few hours before that, the team also rescued a 65-year-old woman in cooperation with a Turkish rescue team. The South Koreans have been looking for survivors in Turkey's southernmost region of Antakya since the early hours of Thursday, joining efforts by the international community to save as many lives as possible. So far, they have rescued a total of 8 survivors. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Countries around the world are joining the rescue and recovery efforts for Türkiye and Syria. South Korea, too, is extending its help for brother country Türkiye from in and out of the country. Our Song Yu-jin tells us how people in South Korea are showing their support.
Hundreds of thousands have lost their homes, tens of thousands are injured, and the death toll continues to rise from the earthquakes that struck Türkiye and Syria on February 6th. Search and rescue teams from around the world are working around the clock to save lives. But freezing temperatures and lack of necessary infrastructure are making things difficult. Even from thousands of kilometers away, people in South Korea are extending their support to brother country Türkiye, a country that dispatched the 4th largest number of soldiers during the Korean War. Donations have been pouring in after the Turkish embassy in Seoul started a relief campaign last week.
So I'm currently at a logistics center located in South Korea's port city of Incheon, and as you can see, there are a lot of bags and boxes, stacks of them continuously streaming in. They contain much needed winter clothes, sleeping bags, tents, blankets, diapers, anything that those struck by the earthquake need to survive.
Anyone who wishes to take part just has to pack up what they want to send, nothing used but new, write down what's inside and aid material Türkiye on the box, and ship it to the address below.
We're seeing so many boxes coming in packed with relief supplies. Our Turkish community in Korea has come here to help the embassy organize and classify the items and send them to the airport.
The embassy has also opened a bank account for monetary donations. And there are also those who've taken matters into their own hands, like the students of Hankuk University of Foreign Studies. Students have set up a fundraising account and installed boxes on campus where people can drop off relief supplies.
We're the only Turkish language major in Korea, and we've interacted a lot with Türkiye and its people in the past, so we thought about what we can do.
We raised more than 8 million Korean won, or around $6,300 just last week. Dozens of boxes containing blankets and padded jackets are stacked on the first floor of our main building.
The money raised and supplies will be handed over to the Turkish embassy in Seoul at the end of this month. At times like this, international solidarity is needed for swift recovery and restoration. Song Yu-jin, Arirang News.
South Korean companies sending financial aid to Türkiye through their local subsidiaries may now be able to complete the process in just one day. The Finance Ministry and the Bank of Korea said Monday that they're working to speed up the approval process for such transfers of money, but didn't provide a detailed timeline. Approvals currently take 3 to 5 days. Korean companies reportedly have dozens of subsidiaries in Türkiye looking to donate, but need to get the money from their headquarters. There are no reporting requirements, however, when companies make donations directly to international organizations. South Korea's trade balance is looking to remain in the red despite findings of an annual rebound in exports for the first 10 days of this month. Our Trade Ministry correspondent Shin Ha-young has more.
South Korea has already posted an on-year rise in exports for this month, but still has a long way to go to see a trade surplus in February. The Korea Customs Service reported on Monday that the country's exports in the first 10 days of February increased almost 12% on-year to a little over $17.6 billion. However, considering the number of working days in the month, 2 more compared to a year before, the daily average outbound shipments dropped by 14.5%. This means that despite the rise, growth has slowed. By item, exports of semiconductors plunged by over 40% for those 10 days on the heels of a sixth straight month of a decline in January. Outbound shipments of computer-related equipment also dropped by over 45%. On the other hand, overseas vehicle sales jumped by almost 167% on year, while sales of petroleum products rose by nearly 29%. By nation, exports to China saw a drop of 13.4% on year, leading to an overall export fall as China is the biggest export market for South Korea. Exports to the United States jumped 48% from a year earlier. Meanwhile, South Korea saw imports increase 17% on year in the first 10 days of this month to $22.6 billion, mainly driven by crude oil, gas, and coal. As a result, the country logged a trade deficit of nearly $5 billion so far in February, greater than for the same period last year, but less than the month before. South Korea, which has been posting a monthly trade deficit since March last year, logged a record high trade deficit of $12.7 billion in January. Another trade deficit for February as a whole would mark 12 months of back-to-back trade deficits. 신하영, Arirang News.
The number of people in South Korea paying for employment insurance, meaning they have a job, rose last month compared to a year earlier. But the pace of increase has slowed, a sign of sluggish labor market recovery. Data from Ministry of Employment and Labor released on Monday says there were more than 14.7 million subscribers to the state insurance program as of the end of January. This is a rise of 316,000 people, or 2.2% compared to the same month a year earlier. But it has declined from 343,000 on-year increase recorded in December. The ministry attributed the sluggish growth to the manufacturing sector, particularly in fabrics, with the easing of the indoor mask mandate and COVID-19 restrictions. Amid record profits by local banks last year, South Korean President Yoon has ordered the nation's Financial Security Commission to come up with measures that stop them from what he called having a feast of their own, as it could lead to ordinary citizens feeling left out. On Monday, during a meeting with his top aides, President Yoon said high interest rates have caused pain for many, adding that commercial banks have a public institution aspect to them and should shift some of their profits toward helping those that have been hit economically. He also said that banks should use their gains to build a solid reserve in preparation for any future financial market uncertainties. This comes as the country's top four major banks posted record on-year profits in 2022, largely attributed to high interest rates. In a speech to the National Assembly today, the floor leader of the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea, Park Hong-kun, urged President Yoon to promptly review the DP's proposal for vouchers to be given to households to help them with their heating bills, including that proposal aimed at dealing with a sharp rise in energy prices. He mentioned the word economy in his speech 17 times. He blamed what he called incompetence on the part of the government for the high inflation and the deadly crowd crush last year in Itaewon. In response, the spokesperson for the ruling People Power Party, Jang Dong-hyuk, said the economic crisis is because of the slowdown in the global economy and the war in Ukraine. Blame lies, he said, with all parties and past administrations as well. Earlier on Sunday, military authorities in the U.S. shut down yet another flying object over its territory. Now, this is reportedly the fourth such mission in as many days. Our defense correspondent Oh Soo-young reports.
U.S. military forces have shot down another unidentified flying object near the Canadian border, hovering over Lake Huron. According to U.S. congressmen who are briefed by the Defense Department, the U.S. Air Force and National Guard shot down another aerial object on Sunday, swiftly, safely and securely. Government officials, when questioned by media, would not comment on whether the object resembled the Chinese surveillance balloon that was shot down earlier this month, which the U.S. intelligence community had linked to a program run by China's People's Liberation Army to spy on foreign military assets. This marks the fourth aerial object to be spotted and shot down from North American airspace this month, with the US and Canada on high alert over air incursions. Washington's Federal Aviation Administration closed airspace twice over the weekend and scrambled military jets. Canada also shut down airspace near Ontario on Sunday after an unidentified object was spotted hovering over Yukon territory. It was shot down by a US F-22 fighter jet. Canadian authorities say the object was cylindrical and smaller than the Chinese balloon discovered off the coast of South Carolina, but was similar in appearance. They say they would not speculate on the origin of the object and stop short of calling it a balloon. Amid allegations of spying on foreign powers, Beijing's foreign ministry claims its balloon shot down near South Carolina was a civilian weather balloon which had veered off course. Both US and Canadian investigators are searching for the remains of the flying objects for a full analysis. Yoon, Arirang News.
South Korea's first lunar orbiter, Danuri, has sent back its first pictures of the moon's surface. They feature interesting aspects of the moon. Operators say the pictures show Danuri's success so far in its mission. Jo Sung-min has more.
South Korea's lunar orbiter Danuri sent back its first photos of the moon's surface on Monday, having entered the moon's orbit a month ago. As the first orbiter to be launched by Korea, Danuri reportedly entered the selenocentric orbit on December 27th after a 145-day journey through space. On the way there, it required about a month to switch its system into the main operation mode to begin its lunar mission. Danuri is currently orbiting the moon 100 kilometers above its surface, and the pictures it sent were taken at Valles Rada on January 5th, the Sea of Rains on January 10th, and the Ocean of Storms on January 13th. While revealing the photos, the Korea Aerospace Research Institute said it has found no errors with the orbiter's functioning since it began carrying out its main task on February 4th. The orbiter is designed to use its instruments to measure and evaluate the moon's terrain, magnetic strength, gamma rays, and other factors until the end of this year. The photos are expected to pave the way for more space projects by Korea that will identify potential landing sites for additional missions in the future. Jo Sung-min, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, on Korea's campaign against cancer, researchers here have marked some notable advances in identifying the causes of pancreatic cancer to possibly allow for early diagnosis and effective treatment. Jung Eun-ju explains.
Pancreatic cancer is difficult to diagnose early with ultrasound and blood tests because the pancreas is located deep inside the body. Also, many pancreatic cancer patients don't show symptoms until the cancer has grown and spread to nearby blood vessels and organs. The 5-year survival rate for all cancer patients in South Korea is 71.5%, while pancreatic cancer has a survival rate of only 15.2%. This is because most patients aren't diagnosed until the cancer is inoperable. It's also because the exact cause of pancreatic cancer isn't identified, and patients are administered anti-cancer drugs that prove ineffective.
At the time of diagnosis, in about 40% of pancreatic cancer patients, the cancer has spread to the liver or bones, and about 30% of patients have blood vessel invasion in nearby organs and therefore cannot undergo surgery.
South Korean researchers have become the first in the world to succeed in classifying pancreatic cancer into 6 types based on cause, which makes it possible to develop customized treatments. After analyzing the genetic proteome of cancer tissue and blood samples obtained from 150 actual pancreatic cancer patients, scientists found that the genes and signaling pathways that cause the disease differ according to 6 types.
We confirmed that pancreatic cancer can be classified into 6 subtypes, not just one type of cancer, and that each subtype is caused by different molecular mechanisms.
The research team also verified through animal experiments that each type of pancreatic cancer has different causes and characteristics. According to their analysis, among the 6 types, the one with the worst treatment prognosis has high cancer cell proliferation and high metastasis, and its survival rate is 1/3 lower than types whose prognosis would be considered good.
We were able to identify the subtype that has the poorest treatment results. Patients in this subtype showed invasion signals and increased cell proliferation, but lower immune signals compared to those in other subtypes.
The research team transferred the pancreatic cancer classification technology to a growing small business so it can be used in the medical field and hope to develop customized treatments tailored to each subtype. 정은주, Arirang News.
The aging society and general population decrease in South Korea is pushing some farming villages toward demographic extinction. Local governments are making efforts to attract more people to rural areas in hopes of bringing countryside villages back to life. Yoon tells us more.
Here in Gangjin-gun in the southwest of Jeollanam-do province, there's a village with some 90 people. In efforts to increase the population of the village, it's running a farming project. The project aims to attract more people to rural areas by providing a live-in farming experience, which first creates jobs to restore housing for incoming residents. Then the housing provides residential space for those who come to get a taste of farming life. In the past 2 years, this village has been cleaned up and the people have a better means of staying connected, all thanks to the village farming project.
Our village farming project has created a platform for people to communicate with each other and discuss matters surrounding the project, creating a friendly environment.
This project was first launched in 2015 when it was the first live-in farming experience available in the country. From agriculture students to retirees, some 10,000 participants have passed through this village. This program brings 2 great advantages to the village. First is an economic advantage.
If retirees can settle here and earn an income, that would help overcome the crisis of regional stagnation and declining population.
The second advantage and goal is to boost the regional population. Local governments are making efforts to improve the overall residential environment to attract more young people. This village also offers families just under $500 per child to encourage families to settle there.
To prepare for another season of village farming, 1,000 housing quarters will be created and another 1,000 rural houses built for new residents.
Stepping into the new year with various goals to fight against demographic extinction, Gangjin-gun hopes for its efforts to spread to other farming villages across the nation to revive the rural population. Yoon, Arirang News.
Much colder weather will be moving in tomorrow. Minus figures will be seen for the morning hours here in Seoul, with lows plunging to -3 degrees Celsius. This is about 7 degrees lower than what we saw today. Other regions such as Daegwallyeong and Gangwon-do province will be colder at -8 degrees. Maximum temperatures will be hiking up significantly though, so do expect wide temperature gaps. Heavy snowfall is expected for mountainous regions of Gangwon-do province with up to 20 centimeters in the forecast. In fact, a heavy snow alert has been issued across the region tonight. For the east coast and mountainous areas of Jeju Island, 1 to 5 centimeters are in store. Under freezing temperatures, frost and ice will be seen, so please be extra careful out on the roads. Tomorrow, Seoul and Daejeon will be starting off at -3 degrees. And daytime highs will be jumping significantly nationwide. Highs in Seoul will get up to 6 degrees. Daejeon 7, Daegu and Gyeongju will be reaching 10 degrees Celsius. Morning temperatures will stay in the minus range for Seoul until this Friday. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That brings us to the end of the newscast on this Monday night. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news in South Korea and around the globe. Good night.